Good evening, everyone. Welcome to American Advocates, coming to you live May 18th, 2026. This will officially be episode number 97 now, I believe we're on. 97 episodes in, and the topics today are going to be Trump, his approval rating, his disapproval rating, and how that's soaring, as well as Alligator Alcatraz, his immigration policy, how that will tie in, of course, with his approval rating and disapproval rating, and as well as the latest, once again, Iran war, Middle East update, because more and more news continues to happen with Trump apparently pausing what was supposed to be pre-planned strikes tomorrow in Iran, but pausing them at the request of Qatar, as well as several other Persian Gulf states. So, going to break all of that down. Alligator Alcatraz, immigration, his approval and disapproval rating, and the top story will again be Iran for tonight's episode 97 of American Advocates. Be sure to like the stream if you haven't already. That's as easy, of course, as double tapping your phone screen or clicking the thumbs up button. It really helps the stream perform better in YouTube's algorithm. Good evening to MMMM. Thanks for being here. And Howard Clegg as well. Good to see you in the chat as well. So let's go forward with this. Before we get into the approval rating, I want to do a tradition, what's sadly becoming a tradition on this channel, which is, of course, telling you what day we are on when it comes to the Iran war. Day 79, hitting day 80 in under 2 hours now. 80 days in. Hey, Steve O.D., good to see you again. I recognize you. You've been a loyal viewer, too. Good evening, Steve O.D. Welcome. Day 79 coming to a close, 2 hours away from day 80. And, of course, let's get the official total. 85,265 switching right now. $85,266,060,000. That's how much has been spent so far in the Iran war, which we all know the cost long term will be way higher, hundreds of billions, many projecting 1 trillion at the very least when it comes to long-term expenditures, all because of this Iran war. Fun fact for you, this war is on average costing Americans roughly $41 million per hour. $41 million per hour this Iran war costs. In fact, it's costing us $11,574 per second. And we are now 80 days in the 12th week of the Iran war. No signs of it stopping yet. No signs of Iranian surrender. No signs of a peace deal being made. Like I said, top story for later on tonight will be Iran Trump deciding to pause pre-planned strikes in Iran. That's going to be the top story after I get to the Alligator Alcatraz story, of course. So, no signs of it stopping yet. Who knows what this weekend will have in store? And we'll get to that in a second here. But I want to cover the Alligator Alcatraz situation. And before that, really, I want to dive into the latest interactive polls release on President Donald Trump's approval and disapproval rating, because it just continues to get worse. It's not getting better. Trump's lowest approval in either term officially hit today, according to this interactive poll. I'm going to go over all of those details. Welcome in Beck Fan, another loyal viewer, and thank you for the gold coin gift. I appreciate that. And welcome the Waits Experience. In fact, the Waits Experience, it is time. It is time to add the Waits Experience officially as a moderator. The Waits Experience, you've earned it, my man. Welcome aboard the current Mod Squad crew. We haven't seen Glenn in a long time, so at this point, I think it's safe to say that you'll report directly to 2009 Lifeguard, who is our commander at large now, since Glenn has shirked his duties on this channel. Waits Experience, I hereby dub thee as a moderator on this channel. He says, thank you, sir. You're very welcome. Appreciate you constantly tuning in and advocating that all of the Goyleman chat like and subscribe to this channel. Be sure that you uphold the #1 value on this channel, which is being a free speech absolutist. Don't bother defending me in the chat from the ad hominem attacks on me, the MAGA cultists that are mad that I'm criticizing their Lord and Savior Donald Trump, or the liberals who get mad when I go all social conservative on this channel and remind them that, yes, I criticize Trump but I am a conservative at the end of the day. Don't ban any of them. Let them speak freely. That's what this channel is all about. Only ban the spammers. If they say the same thing 3 times in a row, boom, time them out. And if they do it again after timeout, they're gone. Out they go. Deported they get. And that's really it, Waits Experience. Use your best judgment otherwise, but I appreciate you, and welcome to the mod crew. You've earned it. So let's go over this, though. Let's get back on track. Are we hating on Trump? If so, proceed. Yeah, pretty much. I am a conservative, but yes, I am. Yes, we're here to deliver on a little bit of Trump hate here, unfortunately. I don't even like doing this, but at this point, Trump has earned this, and he's really earned the absolute shit polls that are being put out about him now, where again, Trump's lowest approval in either term was just officially hit today. So let's go over this interactive poll put out today, a poll that was retweeted by Mark Mitchell, the head pollster for Rasmussen, a right-wing leaning poll, by the way, right-wing leaning poll company that Trump loves. Trump loves Rasmussen. Mark Mitchell retweeted this with the one-word caption on his retweet saying, devastating. And let's go over the poll results right here. So, approval versus disapproval for Trump's job as president overall. Right now, just 37% approve of Trump's overall job as president. This is down another 3 points since the last interactive poll. Meanwhile, 59% disapprove of the job he's doing. It's a negative 22-point difference, with obviously the overwhelming majority of Americans disapproving, and this is a 3-point gain in the disapproval category for President Donald Trump. So that's what's happening right now. The lowest, like I said, in either term for Trump. It's the worst that he has scored thus far. Now, it's broken down into categories, mind you, when it comes to the various different jobs that have been tasked to the president, what we've expected Trump to do, if you remember what his promises were. So it starts with his job on immigration. Now, immigration, actually, I found this to be one of the more interesting categories. Actually, let's go over the economy first. Let's go over the economy first, because the immigration will tie right into the Alligator Alcatraz news that I'm going to cover before I get into the top story later about Trump pausing what were apparently pre-planned Iran war strikes in Iran. So let's go over this right here. The economy. Trump is scoring, and it's actually one of his worst performing ones. Cost of living, economy. Economy first. 33%, just 33% of Americans currently approve of the job Trump is doing with the U.S. economy, while 64% of Americans disapprove of the job he's doing in the economy. It's a negative 31-point difference. Now, why on earth is Trump's approval rating cratering right now? Well, let's go over this real briefly in summary again when it comes to the economy. Is inflation, CPI, core inflation is going to be hitting 4% this month. I mean, almost without a doubt, right? We've seen the inflation trending up since really the beginning of this Iran war. And it started back in March when we saw inflation shoot up. Core inflation shot up to 3.5%. And then we got April's inflation report about a week ago, indicating that inflation went up an additional 3 points to 3.8%. Sorry, not 3 points, 0.3 really, 3.8%. The projections are 4.1, maybe even 4.2% for May when this month is concluded, recognizing, of course, that again, it's the Iran war, and it's still not over. We're not even close to wrapping this up yet. Benjamin Horowitz in chat says, because inflation is 4% and job growth is 0. This is true, actually. So job growth is not going well. And you know, all of this is just an abysmal, it's an abysmal economy right now, all under Trump. Let's not forget something else here. Gas prices. I projected this would happen on this channel, and I've turned out to probably be correct on that. Time will tell. But gas prices will no doubt hit $5 a gallon for a national average. That's coming soon. It's inevitable at this point. The Strait of Hormuz has just been shut down for way too long. Oil future markets are starting to not respond as effectively to Trump's gaslighting on Truth Social anymore. And so the $5 gallon national average is coming our way very soon. I said from the start on this channel that if we hit June, if we hit June and the Strait of Hormuz is not open, and if this Iran war is not concluding, I said it was likely that at some point in June we'll see $6.50, $7 a gallon national average. Very likely that's a possibility. But $5 a gallon is almost certain at this point. And it's even funnier because the whole MAGA copium of better than Biden, at least $4.59, and it's still better than what they were under Biden. Yuck, yuck. Well, that's going away. Understand that right now. That excuse, that level of copium is no more. The conservatives will not be able to continue on with that kind of rhetoric anymore. We're hitting the utmost peak level of Biden national average gas, and it's almost unstoppable at this point. Consumer prices are soaring up because of the inflation. You're now able to see this in day-to-day cost. Shrinkflation has returned. I've experienced it in my own personal life. The food packages are once again shrinking in ounces while the prices are either staying the same or going up in addition to that. It's what we saw under President Biden during the worst year of his presidency, 2022, 2023. It's happening now under Trump as well. So that's happening. The housing market is currently still abysmal for most, unattainable for any of the youth. Millennials are still not buying homes at the rate that they should be, and Gen Zers have all but given up on the dream of ever owning an American home to begin with. In addition to this, rather than building new homes, which is perhaps not the actual solution to the housing market crisis to begin with, granted, but rather than focusing on the housing market and building homes when it comes to real estate, under this administration, the only real major real estate projects taking place are actually really the construction of more data centers for AI. We're seeing that take place more and more, and we know that these data centers, by the way, are coming in, being constructed. They're in many cases the size of city blocks, sometimes multiple city blocks. They suck through insane amounts of water, which could set us up for potential drought issues in the future, and they suck through electricity and really overpower the electrical grid, which winds up being pushed onto the average American citizen. Americans are reporting that their electric bill has gone up in areas where data centers are being built. Their electric bill is skyrocketing in some cases 30% or more. And some states are fighting back on this when it comes to regulating these data centers and forcing the companies to pay the electric bill rather than forcing it onto the citizens. But that's not nationwide. And under this Trump administration, these data centers are being overhauled. The construction are being overhauled. Meanwhile, the housing market sucks. Boomers are buying their second vacation home. Millennials still can't really buy one, and Gen Z has given up on the idea of ever owning a home. So that sucks under Trump. Yesterday, I reported on the bond market and how the yield, the note yield went up, hit to 4.63% yesterday, and has settled at 4.59%, but right around the 4.6% marker. This is also terrible news. The 30-year note yield went up to 5.1 something percent, 5.15%. The outlook, the 30-year outlook of where America will be economically is getting worse, and the heartbeat of the economy, truthfully, when it comes to the average everyday American, is reflected in the 10-year note yield. That's gone up, right? So all of this is taking place, but at least the stock market's not doing terrible if you're invested in technology or war. If you're invested in either of those, the stock market, I guess, is not doing terrible for you. But even then, if you're invested in much of anything else, it's not doing good either. But hey, the Dow Jones, it's holding somewhat steady for all of those 8%ers in America that are invested in it. The rest of us, you can suck bricks, bitch. So yeah, any wonder why Trump's approval when it comes to America in this latest poll, retweeted by, again, Mark Mitchell, a conservative pollster, is it any wonder why only 33% of Americans now currently approve of Trump's handling of the U.S. economy and 64% disapprove? My goodness. So that's right there, a major one. Now, immigration was one of the other ones that stands out. Before I get to that, let me go over this too. So Trump's approval on the economy is only at 33% right now with Americans. His approval with the cost of living, which is this very specific economic indicator that really represents the average everyday American, that's only at 28%. So it's even lower than his overall handling of the economy, lower by 5 more additional points. And currently 69% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of the cost of living. This is according again to interactive polls retweeted by Mark Mitchell, head pollster of Rasmussen, a right-leaning conservative pollster. Now, immigration is the other one on here, and this one I found to be interesting. So 56% of Americans disapprove of his handling on immigration, and only 41% approve. And this one's fascinating because it's nearly a complete flip. It's nearly a complete flip in the polls from where the approval was when Trump was starting his second term last year, where the approval lied with the overall Americans on mass deportations. If you remember, it was popular enough to the point of where many Democrats were even supporting the idea of deporting every single illegal alien out of this country. Last year, early on, sometime around March, mass deportations, the idea of them, the concept of them, were popular with up to 64% of Americans. Many polls reflecting 53 on the low end, I saw in some, I remember, 55, 57, 58, and on the highest end, 64% of Americans at one point approved of mass deportations in this country. This is a complete flip now that we've seen, not just from Trump on his entire stance on all of this, but it's a complete flip on his approval, which reflects just how good or bad of a job that he's done. Again, 41% of Americans only currently approve of his handling of immigration in this country, while the majority of Americans now officially disapprove at 56%. And why is that? Well, it's because we're not getting mass deportations anymore. That's really what's been happening. And guess who? Guess which incredibly good-looking, superiorly intellectual, like that's me. There's nobody smarter on YouTube than me, and it's not even close, right? Which is, again, why you should like the stream right now if you haven't already. If you're going to tune in and watch for free, like the cheap-ass Goyim pond scum that many of you are, you should at least double-tap that phone screen and hit the thumbs up button. For the love of God, it helps the show in YouTube's algorithm. Also, subscribe right now because I've been right, and I'm going to demonstrate to you just how correct I was on Trump's immigration reform policy. I have a clip pulled up. You're going to listen to me talking from all the way back in January. Because guess what? A lot of pawns come in here, as always, Lifeguard, as always. That's why Waits Experience is a third moderator now. He's here to help you as a new deputy in the chat, and you guys can deal with that if it gets out of hand, obviously, in the form of spam. But you guys are going to take a listen to this clip. This is from me back in January 27th, because I've been telling people, and the conservatives have been pissed at me, the MAGA cultists, the ones who get on their hands and knees every morning, even before they've had their coffee, to kneel down in front of their poster of Trump with the crown on his head, representing the Lord and Savior that he appears to be to them. I say this as a conservative. And they can't handle this kind of information that I put out when it comes to Trump seriously backing down. Never really was even serious about mass deportations. A complete capitulation that we've witnessed from this administration, and a forfeiture of the popular mandate that revolved around no new foreign wars, mass deportations, and the economy. All of which he's an abysmal failure on at this point in time in his second term, with no real hope of him ever becoming the success that we wanted him to be. I've been calling this. It's not hard when you're not looking at it through rose-colored glasses and wishful thinking and insane levels of copium. You look at the actual raw news, like I was doing back in January 27th, and you call it for what it is, and you say, Trump's not serious, he's backing down. So take a listen to this clip. It's only, 21 seconds long, but I have it pulled up because I love being right, literally. Even when I want to be wrong, I'm still right, and I hate when I want to be wrong and I'm right overall because it's bad for America. But at the end of the day, I'm still somewhat vindicated, and I do like to rub that in to all of the stupid goyim in the chat who can't handle this. They literally can't handle anything that I say because the liberals are full of a different form of TDS and they think everything Trump does is horrendous. And then the Republicans, the conservative MAGA cultists, they literally can't fathom the idea that Trump is fucking up royally. So I like being right. Fuck you, I'm right. Now take a listen to this.
I want you to remember that as I continue on in this video. We were promised these mass deportations by the Trump administration, and what we're watching happen now, in my opinion, and I think it's playing out this way to prove my opinion right, that is, We're watching the Trump administration slowly retreat on that promise. They're slowly surrendering the immigration reform policies that they promised us.
Well, well, well. That was January 27th of this year, almost 5 months ago. And you know what some of the comments were under that stream when it's saved as a video on this channel? Here's a comment from a guy who's clearly some sort of conservative. And listen, we get into conspiracies on this channel, but they're based in actual facts, actual CIA reports that have been put out, made public, actual patterns that you can recognize, like Israeli foreign influence in our government. You know, everything that you can track. I cover that here all of the time. We're not afraid to call all of that out. It's all in your face at this point, and you have to be a 75 IQ retard to not see that. However, somehow, when you talk about politics on the internet, you always manage to attract the QAnon delusional, boomer slop eating, nonsensical, kind of copium deluded conservatives like this guy, Dziagi. He's been a regular when it comes to criticizing my criticism of Trump. He commented, "Not even close." He was pissed at my analysis back then when I said Trump is giving up on mass deportations and slowly beginning to surrender on the idea of immigration reform and mass deportations. He can't handle it. I, of course, question him on this. I say, not even close to what? A Trump surrender? That's exactly what this is. It's outrageous, too. And so all of that is to say, you know, what's another one here? GWF Bagel 3811 leaves a comment under this at the time too and says, instant reactions to surface appearances are usually wrong. He's saying I'm wrong. Oh, it's way too early to really provide that analysis. Don't you think, American advocates? What Trump said about Greenland was preposterous, like no one would take it seriously. He's talking about Greenland here, and then he says Trump's current ICE move is about the budget coming up to soften enough Dems to avoid a shutdown over ICE funding. Well, guess what wound up happening there, GWF Bagel? We got the partial government shutdown that wound up only ending just a few weeks ago after being shut down for a record length of time because the Republican Party is so fucking cucked beyond belief that they let a minority Democrat party hijack everything. The Senate won't nuke the filibuster, and so this government was in a partial shutdown because Republicans decided rather than to take control and push forward everything like the American people voted for them to do, they decided they should compromise instead and make a deal with Democrats. Please reopen most of the government and we'll allow you to shut down the Department of Homeland Security and not fund it. And that's exactly what the Democrats agreed to. This is how pathetic and weak this Republican Party is. And that's why on this channel I constantly advocate that we just stop voting for this kind of pathetic weakness. If there's one thing I despise more than anything, even more than perhaps even betrayal, it's weakness. There's nothing worse than when the good guys are so incredibly weak that you watch them be nothing but ineffective, and ultimately you watch them turn into complete traitors to their own cause, betraying all of their constituents and just sitting around in their little cuck chairs in Congress getting nothing done. So again, Trump's current ICE move is about the budget coming up, they said. They can't believe that I was saying that Trump was surrendering and that mass deportations were coming to an end all the way back in January. He says Trump and Homan are not going to reduce deportations for midterms. This is how delusional some conservative MAGA cultists are. In addition to that, I had another one, Prem P990. I would have to unsubscribe to you now, dude. I cannot support such stances as they completely go against my religion and morality. Bear in mind, I'm a social and fiscal conservative, born-again Christian American nationalist. Okay? Like, what the fuck is he talking about here? So, all of this is to say, many people, they didn't want to acknowledge reality when it came to Trump and deportations. They wanted to say, oh no, certainly he's not surrendering to Tim Walz up in Minnesota, who's a governor very likely guilty of tons of fraud with the Somalians. Oh no, Trump's going to keep going with the deportations. It's what he promised. He's just trying to keep it hush-hush for midterms pressure's sake, but secretly he's going to keep it going. People literally were convinced of this. Greg Bovino gets pulled out of Minnesota, sent to his home in Los Angeles, I believe, California, and is now essentially forced into retirement. Perhaps one of their most effective Border Patrol agents out there, the commander at large of all of this, pulled out of the state and done away with. The reporting that I did at the time, a couple months after I made this analysis, the reports come out that behind the scenes, Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, is going around telling everyone within the administration, stop using the term mass deportations. We can't use that term anymore. It's not popular enough, and it's going to cause us to lose the midterms. I've just been nothing but vindicated and just completely right every step of the way because I am intellectually superior, which is why you should subscribe right now. It doesn't get any smarter than me. It doesn't get any more accurate than me. You are here to learn. And more importantly, I know many of you are so fucking stupid that you must have even dumber friends, which is why you should share this channel with your even dumber friends and help them out. Because if you're as dumb as you are, then very likely your friends are even dumber. The rising tide will raise all boats. You're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most. So share this with your peanut-headed father, share this with your idiotic bimbo mother, share this with your siblings, and share this with your friends. It's important. People need to hear the truth. More so, I'm even more vindicated, by the way, and the reason why I'm bringing all of this up, Trump's popularity, his approval with immigration declining, tanking, as people realize this administration's not serious about mass deportations, and they never were. But more so, I'm even more vindicated. Not only did I just play that clip from January 27th of me saying that before you heard it anywhere else, by the way. Anywhere else. All you heard everywhere else at the time from MAGA copium channels were Trump's playing 5D chess so that the Democrats can't shut down the government. They shut it down anyway. And so that the Republicans can win the midterms. The Republicans are going to get annihilated in the midterms this year. You heard it here first. But also, I wanted to use this to literally go right into one of the stories for today. Before we get to the top story, which is the Iran war again, of course, because it's Trump's biggest fuck up and blunder. It's ruining the global economy. It's ruining our U.S. economy now. It's ruining the GOP as a whole, which is ironic since they wanted to stop mass deportations because of the political poison element to it for midterms. But they'll go right ahead and serve Israel's interest in the Middle East. Isn't that fucking funny? But since this, has Trump ramped up the deportations? No. And the breaking news coming in that I saw today is that Alligator Alcatraz is now closing for good. It's done. And here are some of the most depressing stats about that. My moderator lifeguard's going to love this. He's going to love this. Is like he loves this horrendous news. It makes his night every single night. Here are some of the depressing stats about Alligator Alcatraz, which barely managed to basically exist and operate for 1 year before now being closed down for good. After spending, by the way, $1 billion American taxpayer dollars on the construction of it, it was constructed over the course of 8 days last July and constructed using emergency powers from Governor Ron DeSantis in order to accomplish it in such a quick time frame and bypassing Florida state legislator and everything else that they would have needed to go through, the hoops they would have had to jump through to construct it. $1 billion spent, and during the entire duration of its existence, it only wound up housing a total of 1,400 temporarily detained illegal aliens. So $1 billion to create it. Didn't even last 1 year, 1 full year, because I believe it was constructed last July. And it only wound up housing a total of 1,400 illegal aliens, temporary detainees. What's the math there? Well, $1 billion for its construction means that we essentially spent, as Americans, $714,000 fucking dollars and $285,000 per occupant. How's that for mass deportations? How's that for Trump is going to deport all of them? How's that for immigration policy reform? Alligator Alcatraz is no more. Now, some of the copium gets even more wild here when it comes to this, and that is centered around the fact that Ron DeSantis has made statements about the closure of Alligator Alcatraz, and he says essentially this article that I'm reading from with its statement says, as Florida prepares to wind down the so-called Alligator Alcatraz lockup amid high cost and claims that it is now obsolete, Governor Ron DeSantis reflected Wednesday on the remote facility's 9-month run. We've saved taxpayers' money, he says. He told onlookers at an unrelated Brevard County press conference. We've saved taxpayers from medical care and schooling of undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens, we call it here on this channel. We're not pussyfooting around with that term. They're illegal aliens that don't belong in this country, and if you don't fucking like it, that's too fucking bad. They need to get the fuck out of this country. I'm talking 90-year-old grandmas. They came from Mexico 40 years ago. Their only crime was coming in illegally. Don't care. Shackle that bitch up, throw her in the back of a van, and get her the fuck out of my country. You're talking a 10-year-old schoolgirl. Oh, I want to learn math. I want to learn English. My parents had me here illegally. Shackle that bitch up, throw her in the back of a van, and get her the fuck out of my country. No amnesty for any of them. This is my country. It's for people that look like me. It's my fucking country. I was born here. I'm 5 generations in. I am, in the truest sense, a Native American. All the job opportunities belong to me. All of the housing space belongs to me. The apartments belong to me. This is my birthright. Not these scum fucking illegal aliens who come in here. They know they're violating the law too, by the way. I have some softies down in my chat sometimes. Don't be mad at them. They're just taking advantage. Yeah, they're taking fucking advantage of the system. That's the equivalent of saying don't be mad at the Nazi officers. They were just following fucking orders. Really? Really? No. Get them all out. That's what many of us, most of us, voted for. Anyways, he says, we save taxpayers from medical care and schooling of illegal aliens and all of these different things. I'd rather do what's right, and I'd rather protect the people that I was elected to serve. In addition to that, what I really wanted to go over here as well is the timing of this shutting down is no coincidence either, because no empathy, no care, none whatsoever, Neon. Empathy is a myth anyway. It doesn't exist. It's a female feminist myth. There is sympathy, but there is no empathy, all right? The timing of this shutdown, by the way, is no accident, though, because here's another article talking about what is taking place right now centered around illegal immigrants. It says, the timing of the expected closure of an immigration detention center in the middle of the Florida Everglades, Alligator Alcatraz, likely in the next month, is no accident, because it will come as their lawsuit challenging its existence returns to a federal judge who had previously ordered it to be shut down. A federal court decided last month to keep open the detention center nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz for the time being, blocking a lower court decision ordering it to wind down operations. But the case was sent back to the lower court judge, who now gets jurisdiction over the lawsuit as the litigation over the facility's fate continues. Now, here's another reality for you, and perhaps one of the other reasons why Trump isn't doing a great job as president, why his approval rating is tanking even amongst many conservatives. It's because Trump is a cuck, pussy little bitch, just like all of the other Republicans in Congress and especially in the Senate. He should be ignoring the courts, especially these low-level district court peons. Immigration is a federal issue. It's a federal issue because it was started as a federal issue. The Immigration and Nationality Act was signed by Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1965 under the Statue of Liberty. The President of the United States signed this into effect. Also, of course, under Biden and under many other presidents in the past, our borders were left open because of the president's decrees. This is not a state issue. It's a federal issue that affects states and, more importantly, affects American citizens and American people. Right? So Trump should be ignoring these low-level district court judges that have been impeding him every step of the way. It is the Democrats undermining every step that he takes. But Trump's not ignoring them. He's weak. He's weak-minded, weak-willed when it comes to the courts, desperate for some form of validation from the Democrats and from the liberal media that he's never going to get. Trump will never get that. But it's perhaps one of his biggest insecurities. And it's the pattern we see play out with Trump all of the time. His biggest supporters that support him all the way through and push him across the finish line to get him to where he's at now, the fucking president of the United States, they get thrown to the side over time. Trump has no loyalty to any of them. We've seen it with Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Lauren Boebert recently. All of these people are done away with. And instead, he gets the never-Trumpers by his side. Mark Levin and Lindsey Graham, people who have betrayed him, who never stood for him. Ben Shapiro, all of these people. Trump is desperate to win them over. And he has no doubt a secret fantasy of getting good press from the liberal left. It's why he loves and continues to bring up, even in Beijing, China, the CNN report from Harry Enton, where he claimed that he had 100% MAGA support for the Iran war, which we all know was a fake poll. But Trump's enamored by this. And so as a result of this, he doesn't take control of all the executive power that he should be wielding to get the agenda done for the American people. Probably as a result, that's probably a large part of it, and it's because he's afraid of the backlash. He hates the bad press. He leans into it in the moment. It's how he is as a person, but at the end of the day, it always gets him to back down when he shouldn't be. Beyond that, though, too, and here's really one of the major issues here. Alligator Alcatraz isn't just shutting down in convenient timing because there's a low-level district court case coming up over it with some peon judge that shouldn't have really much of any say, and Trump is no doubt going to be concerned about that, especially, again, closing in on midterms. But in addition to that, the news gets worse behind the reason why Alligator Alcatraz is closing down. It turns out that Trump was supposed to, and never did, reimburse Florida for the $1 billion that were spent in federal funds. Florida was supposed to get this back, apparently, according to the reports here, and this never came. The $1 billion was never sent. Why? Well, because, of course, how does that benefit Israel? How does mass deportations benefit Israel? How does Alligator Alcatraz benefit Israel? How does sending $1 billion in reimbursements to Governor DeSantis in Florida for the construction of Alligator Alcatraz benefit Israel and the war in the Middle East? It doesn't. We need the $1 billion for the war now, you stupid American Goyim scum. How dare you expect to live in a country where mass deportations would occur, where all of the illegal aliens that are absorbing, they're literally absorbing your jobs because they're willing to work for slave wages. How dare you, Goyim scum, expect them to be deported out of your country? Don't you understand? It's not your country anymore, you silly little goy bitch. And any president who promises to deliver on this, that is not an ideologue, not a religiously zealous, hardcore ideologue with the true convictions of deporting illegal aliens and restoring America to the population that it's supposed to be. Any president like Trump, who's purely a populist, is never going to deliver. He was never serious about this. And we know this because the mass deportations are winding down. They're coming to an end. Only the worst of the worst are being deported. And in fact, we're hearing rumblings now in Congress of considerations for full amnesty for illegal aliens. And why? The reason for this is simple. The GOP doesn't actually want the mass deportations to occur. They just pretend that they do. And I've covered this in the past on this channel because I've gone over what the hurdles would be when it comes to mass deportations, what kind of economic impact this would have on our country, where I've ultimately, of course, concluded that it'll be worth it in the long run. And not just worth it, but it's necessary. It's necessary for the future of our American country as we know it. Our actual way of life is literally on the line, right? So it's necessary, but I've gone over it. I've recognized the problems with it, the lower GDP, etc. And this is for this reason is why we've seen Trump pushing everything. Complete betrayal in front of our face. With Laura Ingraham, we can remember he was pushing for doubling the amount of Chinese college students admitted into this country. He said, well, 300,000 is good, but 600,000 would be even better. It would help the struggling colleges that might go out of business otherwise. He also pushed, again, the H-1B visas in that interview as well, which, again, those are clips we're going to be hearing in the midterm elections, no doubt. What did he say about the H-1B visas? Well, Americans just aren't smart enough for those jobs. We need we need these shit-eating Indians to come in who throw trash in their river as a form of worship. Clearly, they are the intellectually superior beings over you stupid Americans. We'll bring them into America, and they'll do the job for you. Maybe they can even teach you over time. They certainly seem to know a lot. When you look at India, man, they just live in paradise. Those beautiful paved roads. The cuisine that they eat, how they make their food. God, they just have it all figured out, those Indians. So let's get them in. We need to staple green cards to all of that. Get them in and keep them in here to replace the Americans. Not only that, but not only are they smarter than you, but they'll work for 67% of the total pay you would ask for as an entitled American, apparently. This is Trump who pushed for all of this. And sure, the amount of H-1Bs admitted into this country last year were lower than they were under prior administrations. Yes, this is true. But what should be happening with H-1B visas under someone like Trump, who ran on immigration as one of his key cornerstone policies, is we should be seeing H-1B visas done away with entirely, with some form of legislation drafted up that would prevent them from ever coming back. They don't belong as a concept. They shouldn't be a process in this country. We don't need H-1B visas. We need Americans getting jobs. We need to focus on the young generations. We need to rebuild supply chain and infrastructure and manufacturing. We need steady job growth for Americans. And an American is someone who was born here legally in this country. But Trump pushes for H-1B visas. He pushes for the Chinese students. And lately, we've even found out that after meeting in China, and I covered this on this channel, after his meeting with Xi Jinping in China, Trump comes back and says, honestly, yeah, there's a possibility we'll allow them to, buy some land and occupy our U.S. soil. They'll build factories here because they want to get around the tariffs. We have to allow that. They're going to come in and they're going to buy U.S. soil and they're going to build a factory. If that happens, first of all, that's a betrayal of our country. I would consider that a traitorous kind of agreement. We should never allow China into this country under any circumstances. And if that happens, how do you think it's going to play out? The Chinese will selectively buy the land that is near military bases or important infrastructure in this country, and the factories that they do build, do you think mostly will be employed with American workers? No. Trump pushes for that, though. In addition to that, we saw, of course, don't forget Greg Bovino being fired, basically. The administration has stopped using the term mass deportations. And now, lately, we have seen a push in the GOP section of Congress for mass amnesty to be granted to illegal alien Haitian migrants. This was just taking place courtesy of, I believe, Marie Salazar, just about 2 months ago. So yeah, breaking news, Alligator Alcatraz closes. It's because Trump doesn't want it open anymore. I did another live episode and covered a report about how after the firing of Kristi Noem, the DHS would be reviewing all of the similar land purchases that were being made to create other versions of Alligator Alcatraz. They were reviewing it. I said why they would be reviewing it. I'm not going to play that clip too for you. I'm just right about everything except it. But they were reviewing it for what reason? So that they could find out how valuable it was or what to do with it next? No, they're reviewing it to cancel it. They're going to halt those. I said they would do that. And now I'm vindicated in that when we find out Alligator Alcatraz is closing after only housing a total of 1,400 temporarily detained illegal aliens. Again, costing roughly $716,000 essentially per detainee, since it costs $1 billion to build. Do we understand now on this channel what's happening here? Again, why don't they want this? The GDP will drop. Farmers in the service industry will lose their slaves, because that's what illegal immigrants are to these people. They're slaves. You pay them $3 an hour. No American would ever work for that. We can't afford to. But they'll come in and do it. And the economic setbacks, that's why Trump has determined mass deportations aren't worth it. And that's why they put up this front about, the worst of the worst are going first, and then we'll get to the rest. They're never going to get to the rest. It was never going to happen. There's too much pushback from it. There's too many illegals in this country, and this administration's not moving fast enough. The pace is not good enough to really equate to any meaningful amount of deported illegal aliens by the time Trump's out of office. At most, he deported 600-something thousand illegal aliens last year. That number's inflated, and I've done full breakdowns on this channel many, many months ago, where I looked at the numbers and I said, yeah, the real number is going to be about 275,000 internal removals. And that's the number that actually counts. When you add all of that up, we might be lucky to get 1 million total by the time Trump's out of office, bearing in mind that we likely need to be expelling 50 million of these illegal aliens out of this country. That's the actual goal. We might get 1 million if we're lucky by the time Trump is done with this term. They don't care. The incentive is too great. It pushes too far against them. They're incentivized to only pretend. It's a charade. The megacopium of them basically saying, well, they're only giving the appearance of backing down, but behind the scenes, they're going to keep doing it. It's just they got the midterms to worry about, and they don't want Congress. They don't want the shutdown, the government to be shut down. And it's a bad look when two suicidally empathetic white people, absolute retarded white people, Renee Good, the butch bitch, who somehow has a son, who's definitely better off now, by the way. She gets killed. Alex Preddy, some homicidal, maniacal nurse who violated his own Hippocratic oath by assaulting ICE agents and spitting on them, gets killed. Whoop-de-doo. But it's a bad look, and they can't control the messaging. So don't you get it? The MAGA copium is, don't you get it? He's really going to keep doing it, but he's just projecting it. He wants you to think, he wants the Democrats who are low IQ, he wants them to think he's not going to do it anymore. It's the opposite, you stupid bitch. It's the opposite. They're going to make you think they're doing more than what they are. It's all a charade. It's all about what I say on this channel. Politics is perception because perception is reality. And perception's reality because most people are too fucking stupid to read in between the lines. Again, that's why you should like this stream and subscribe right now to American Advocates. I'm here to give you the real deal, and time proves me more right often than I am wrong. I'm wrong sometimes, and I admit when I am, especially because I want to be wrong more often than I am to begin with. Sadly, it's not the case. And you know, all of that is funny too, because that really leads me into here, the top story for today. The Iran war is paused again. Strikes in Iran are paused. Apparently, they were pre-planned and they were going to be taking effect tomorrow, according to reports. The Iran war itself is the ultimate slap in the face if you're an American, especially after I got done reporting on all of this. Alligator Alcatraz closing, the narrative going on behind the scenes with Susie Wiles leading it and pushing it out there in the White House, according to reports that mass deportations are political poison, too unpopular with Americans. I said this from the start that this was the case, by the way, many, many months ago. January, I was saying this. And I said it was going to be an ultimate betrayal for MAGA, and it was. It was more of a betrayal than I could have ever fathomed at the time. Because back in January, we hadn't launched a new Middle East war yet. But I literally said, you know, this is the problem. As soon as the Iran war started, I even said that. So mass deportations are too unpopular for GOP to be able to overcome that and win midterms. The GDP will tank if we actually deported enough illegal aliens to make a difference. The economy will get worse in the short and midterm if we do that. So we can't do it, and we can't use the term anymore. But, that being said, we can bomb Tehran as soon as Benjamin Netanyahu orders me to, and we can go back to the Middle East and launch a new Middle East forever foreign war, which has done what? It's going to tank our GDP next year, it's causing inflation to skyrocket, it's worsening the economy, and it doesn't benefit Americans in any way whatsoever. Apparently, that's greenlit by this administration, knowing full well that the midterms are coming up, and now we're in a stalemate, and Trump has no real good way to leave and end the Middle East war now, the Iran war. So really, really, really look at it that way and understand what's happening here. Your representatives don't represent you, and the ones that try to maybe at first, like back in 2015 and 16, if they hang around long enough, they appear to get corrupted as well. Especially if they're not ideologues and they have no real convictions. If they're only just populists, this is what happens. Now, that being said, Trump pauses planned strikes in Iran. That's what I want to go over for our top story today. Again, day 79 of the Iran war coming to an end in just about an hour, heading into day 80 in the 12th week right now, and $85 billion spent so far. So let's go over this. Now, I made the prediction, hang on one second here. I made the prediction on this channel starting last week when Trump was in Beijing, China. And I said from the start, Trump's probably going to strike Iran again. The writing seemed to be on the wall, right? Everything that they're doing, all of the pattern recognition based off of past activity in the Middle East, all of it seemed to be there. It seemed like it was obvious. And what I said last week was Trump's in Beijing. He wants to see how China will respond to him over the Iran war and his objections to it. He wants to see what China will be willing to do or not willing to do. And Trump will wait until after that meeting concludes to go back to war with Iran and strike them. And then I also said he would want some distance in between the China meeting so he would not strike Iran this past weekend. I was right. We have not struck Iran. Turns out, if the report is to be believed, the plan was to strike them tomorrow, Tuesday. Now, if that report is to be believed, is the key here, as well as my prediction of Trump striking Iran. Because ultimately the question is, am I wrong now in my prediction of Trump returning to bombing Iran because Trump has now paused it? That's going to be the question here. And really what's happening is deeper than what is being delivered in the news. So what I want to go over here is the pause. And the official reporting that we got on this was that Trump says Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE asked him and pleaded with him to postpone strikes because they think they are getting very close to making a deal. This is the official reporting on this. Now, here's the reality. The reality is Trump did talk with these countries, these Persian Gulf nations. He talked with them about 24 hours before ultimately making his decision. This is what I reported on over the weekend, that Trump was making his final decision over the weekend. Now, he talked with these nations. The reality is they didn't ask him or beg him to not do it because peace talks are close. The reality is these countries called him and pretty much did their best to demand from him that he not strike Iran. And I've gone over the reason why dozens of times by now since the start of this war. It's because Iran, when we initially struck them, went hellfire and fury, scorched earth on the region and took out all of their wrath on all of their neighboring Gulf states. Qatar, Bahrain, parts of Oman, I believe, the Emiratis, Saudi Arabia, Israel as well caught some, right? And they vowed, essentially, after this, when it started winding down in about the second week of March, I believe, they vowed that if America, the United States, ever restrikes them again, that they will go even harder next time and that they will target deliberately critical infrastructure in the Middle East. That means liquid natural gas fields. They specifically stated that. Oil industry, they stated that as well, and desalinization plants in the Middle East, which is responsible for converting salt water to drinkable fresh water for all of the inhabitants of the Middle East, vital to the region. Iran has promised to take all of that out or to do their absolute best in succeeding in taking them out if the United States bombs them again. And it's been for that reason that when I've ran through the list of bad options that Trump has, and all of them are bad in varying degrees, I've stated directly that the third worst option, the worst is the nukes, the second would be a ground force invasion and full-on war, but the third worst option would be to bomb them again for this reason. And what happened is, it wasn't these countries calling Trump and begging him to not strike because peace is close. The countries were calling and demanding that he don't strike because their ass is on the line if we do. When Iran decides to retaliate, they're going to try at least to follow through on those promises. And the worst part about this is they demonstrated about a week and a half ago now that they still have and can generate enough force output to cause damage. They've been demonstrating this. This is what they've been doing this for. It's been a warning because they knew the escalation was imminent. So they took out 4 ships in the Strait of Hormuz in under 48 hours. They struck Fujairah. They also struck Baraka, I believe it was, over this past weekend. A nuclear plant for the Emiratis, I believe, or for the Saudis, I think it was. Yeah, the Saudis. So they've been demonstrating that they have the ability still to cause damage and actually destroy stuff. It's been on display. And that's what's actually happening here. And now I went over the reporting over the weekend where Trump was given the assessment of what the damages would be to our Persian Gulf allies should he bomb Iran and should Iran decide to go scorched earth and follow through on their promise to strike all of these nations. And according to the behind-the-scenes reports, Trump looked at that assessment and said, well, that's acceptable. And that's where Trump's mindset was at over the weekend. Apparently that's changed now after receiving several phone calls, again, because they very likely insisted that he not do it. Not because peace talks are winding down and now we're coming to a deal. I don't believe that's true whatsoever. There's no reason to believe that. I've explained in great detail why peace talks and negotiations are stalemated. We want them to surrender, and they believe they have leverage. But it's just because they don't want to sustain the damage. And apparently, Trump has told the allies that the three leaders of these states, again, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the Emiratis, made it clear that they don't want their oil and energy facilities blown up in potential Iranian retaliation. It's very clear, right? So, nevertheless, kind of like as always, what we've been seeing with the pattern of Trump, who makes a lot of these threats. He makes a lot of these threats. He's been doing this. And then every time he has a new reason that's not in his purview, it's not in his control entirely, for why he has to walk it back. Two of those times have been because of Pakistan, right? The initial ceasefire was done because of Pakistan, which we pretty much can almost confirm at this point was done because the President Pezeshkian of Pakistan, or no, sorry, that's the president of Iran, Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan, was sent an email by Washington, D.C., instructing him to make this request of Trump and giving him a format of what to say. This was a leak that it's been, I don't know if it's been fully confirmed yet, but I've seen some channels confirm it to be real because he copied and pasted the email exposing it by accident on his Twitter page, that is Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan. So it was actually the U.S. telling him to do that because Trump realized that he was locked in a stalemate and needed a way out. Nevertheless, that's been the excuse thus far. Pakistan this, Pakistan that. Pakistan pleaded last time with them, please don't break the ceasefire yet. Iran's close to making a deal. Same narrative, different country. Now it's the Emiratis, the Saudis, and Qatar. Now they're the ones this time coming together. Sir, they said, sir, please don't strike, sir. They're close to peace. They're close to peace. Are you buying this? Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not buying it. And the worst part about this is the walkbacks, the gaslighting, the peace deal is close type rhetoric that we've been fed now, mind you, for 80 days, 12 weeks. We're in the 12th week. We've been fed this for what? 11 of those 12 weeks? For 73 of the 80 days, we've been fed all of this. And it's all been walked back continuously. We've been stalemated. It's been going nowhere. And you have to understand something. There's a time limit on the gaslighting from Trump, and I've explained this at length on this channel as well. So the markets now we're seeing are finally starting to not be moved as much by what Trump says publicly or on Truth Social anymore. So oil futures are volatile, but they seem to be now almost on a path of consistently going up. This is something I said would start to happen the closer we get to the month of June. And why is June significant? It's because that's when the global oil reserves really start to dry up. I've warned about this for weeks on this channel. Weeks. Because all of the MAGA cultist cheerleaders out there will tell you, Trump is so amazing. We can go to war with Iran, and at the flick of a switch, he can go on Truth Social and just improve the oil futures commodity markets and keep our gas costs a little bit lower than they probably should be. Trump is truly one of a kind, they said. And I said, yeah, they seem to be drunk on the Trump Kool-Aid. That's good for us. I'm not actually even complaining about it. I'm warning about it, and I've been warning about it for weeks, that the closer we get to June, when the global oil reserves will start drying up, the worse off we're going to be because the markets will respond to reality over gaslighting at some point. They'll be slapped out of their drunken state. They'll look at the oil reserves, the global ones especially, and they'll realize it's running out, and this war's not over. And that's when we're going to see $200 per barrel. Expect that to start trending that way the closer we get to June, especially if it hits June and this is not over with yet. And if this hits July, expect the U.S. economy to really go to shit, because that's when our strategic oil reserves start to dry up as well. In addition to this, I also, of course, reported on the 10-year note yields yesterday, the bond market. This is the ultimate timer for Trump, by the way, and it always has been. It's how I've predicted the ceasefires in this Iran war, basing it off of Trump's prior actions, again, in the China tariff war of last year. The bond markets, when they freak out, Trump loses his mind. And the 10-year note yields went up to 4.63% last night, sinking down just under that to 4.59% today. So the bond market's now starting to freak out too. They've lost faith in Trump. Also, Trump continues to be eroded here, really, when it comes to just how we handle our peace talks with Iran and diplomacy in general, right? Trust is being eroded, is really what's taking place now. This is the ultimate pitfall of this. You can only say for so long that, oh, peace is on the way, oh, negotiations are going well, and then basically the next day threaten to end the ceasefire and blow up Iran. Trump, the poker player strategy that Trump is wielding here, I've discussed at length. Iran plays chess and Trump plays poker. I've said that. I've been the one saying that on YouTube the entire time. Trump, the poker player strategy, the talk about, what's working well, the short bursts of everything, the bluffing that's never sustained for long, right? All of this that we're seeing, the grandiose threats that follow when his bluff is called by Iran. And then ultimately all of that is being done, and then the ultimate reality, the ultimate end game is never any serious action being taken. This is the pattern that's been on repeat now for close to 12 weeks. All of that has drastic effects on the United States and on the world, because we lose more respect and credibility every time the pattern plays out this way. Trump literally says he tries to negotiate, doesn't like the way negotiations are being played out. He makes a bluff. He creates a bluff. Iran calls the bluff. Trump gets mad, makes huge threats. And then ultimately, after some time is formed in between the threat and when reality sets in, Trump realizes he has to walk the threat back. We lose credibility and respect every time this happens, because if you continually cry wolf and nothing ever happens, you look like an idiot. And more so, if a deal is actually what Trump wants, his bluffing and walkbacks undermine the progress for that inherently. And why? Because it erodes the trust with the Iranian diplomats and the Iranian people. It erodes the trust. If every time this happens and we actually earnestly want to deal with them, trust is being eroded every time this pattern is repeated. It's crucial, by the way, trust, for good faith negotiations and healthy diplomacy. Above all else, diplomacy is rooted in trust. And when diplomacy is rooted in trust, wars are averted, not created. Stop everything. $10 super chat tariff to help balance out the chat deficit of all of the low IQ scum that aren't even worth me acknowledging. And Beckfan says, I think often of the guy who got his brains blown out in Pennsylvania and all of the others who have suffered horribly to support Trump just for him to do what he's doing now belongs in the ninth circle. Yeah, and you're referring to Corey Comparatori, the firefighter. I believe he was from New York. He was in attendance there. He's dead. He was in attendance because he believed in Trump. Trump almost gets assassinated. It misses. It hits Corey Comparatori, a firefighter with a family, and he's dead. And you're absolutely right. And 2 others were injured, right? So yeah, that's a very fair thing to say. And that's why I view what Trump is doing. I view it as myself being a social and fiscal conservative. And I view it all as just a betrayal, because it is. All of it is. Everything Trump ran on, we're either getting in half-assed form at best or not at all anymore. And what Trump ran on to not happen, we're literally getting right now. So I'm glad you see that, Beckfan, and thank you for the $10 super chat tariff. That really helps out the channel a lot. Especially it helps out the chat deficit. That's what tariffs do. They fix the deficit. And the chat deficit builds up with stupidity. It's crazy. However, not for people like Dan Christopher 7957, who says oil future markets manipulation, not complicated. No, it's not. And actually, I don't even blame Trump for doing it, really. He should do that as the leader. That's in his best interest to do that. So I don't even fault him for it. It's just my warning has been that reality will sink in for the markets, and reality will beat gaslighting any day, And really, it's a matter of, again, because of how often he gaslights too. So it's not even a bad thing for Trump to do it, in my opinion. He should, but he can only do that for so long before the markets stop responding to it, because he's doing it too much. And then when reality sets in, it's even worse, right? So that's the line that we're walking down here. Now, back on point here, I left off saying if Trump wants a deal, what he's doing with this pattern of negotiating, being angry, bluffing, being mad at the bluff called and then making a major threat only to walk it all back is eroding the trust that will not help diplomacy along and certainly won't result in any sort of good deal with Iran. If we actually want a deal is the key here, though, because in all honesty, I'm at a point right now on this channel where I firmly believe, for the most part, I would 90% believe that Trump doesn't actually want a deal with Iran anymore, and I think that the United States doesn't really want a deal with Iran anymore either. And why is that? It's because it's a stalemate again. And Trump at this point realizes the situation that he's in. He wants a way to pull out and save face for making this disgusting and terrible decision to get involved in the Middle East whatsoever. This absolute stupid choice to get involved. He knows, despite what he'll say publicly, of course, which he should put on the face for the public and talk the best about it. That's what he's going to. That's what any reasonable leader would do, for the most part. In private, he knows he fucked up, and he wants a way out, and there's no way out because Iran will not, in their stubbornness, and partially I don't even blame them for that, they won't let him leave now with a win or at least the appearance of a win. And that's because Iran is so outraged at all of this that they've decided that they could use Trump and America now to set an example for future presidents, future prime ministers of Israel who find themselves constantly in these positions of telling our U.S. president what to do and when. This is now going to be the example set for future leaders on why you do not strike Iran. That's their goal. And so they will not surrender, first of all, and that's what Trump ultimately said would be the only acceptable end to this. He said that week 1 in March. They won't do that. They won't even compromise on now what is most important. And believe it or not, what's most important is not their nuclear facility program. It's the Strait of Hormuz. And I've gone into great detail why that is. But it's a strategic loss for Trump and America if for any reason we leave this region with the Strait of Hormuz being locked down, controlled, and told by the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. If that happens, it undermines the Pax Americana and the Freedom of Navigation Act and all of the post-World War treaties that were signed by the United Nations, with many countries agreeing, because our Navy's always been the one traditionally enforcing the Freedom of Navigation Act and enforcing this and keeping the international waters safe and free for all. So if Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, that ends that era, essentially. The Pax Americana era is undermined and doesn't really recover, because other countries will begin to look at their straits and realize at one point most of them locked down those straits and charged tolls too. We're talking about the Strait of Malacca in Indonesia. We're talking about the Gibraltar Strait with Spain. We're talking about the 2 different straits that sit up and border where Turkey is. One of those straits responsible for generating mass wealth for Constantinople back in the day. We're talking about the Balkan Islands. All of this will change slowly. Countries will look at Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz and think to themselves, well, shit. If they can charge a toll and profit their economy and grow their GDP, why can't we? And then the question at that point is, yeah, why can't they? And that's what's at stake here. And that's why it's actually more important at this point than their nuclear program. Because we blew up their nuclear facilities, their enriched uranium is buried under rubble, and they're going to have a hard time gaining access to that. Not to mention the fact that they don't have nuclear warheads to begin with. This was another 2003 Iraq War lie delivered to us by, you guessed it, Israel, because it serves Israel's interest for us to weaken Iran so Israel can do what they're doing now and conquer Lebanon more and more and more. Israel wants the Greater Israel Project. They'll stop at nothing for that. They believe it's their destiny to get it. And they're using the goyim in America, the stupid goys, the boomers, the boomer Israel worshippers and neoconservative warmonger voters out there. They love this stuff. Those fucking boomers, they love it. They don't even know what world they're actually living in, and you can't fix them. They have no appetite for the truth, these people. They have no stomach for it. They literally can't handle it. They're the snowflakes about Israel that they accuse the millennials of being. That's what they are. And in that way, Trump is the boomer's last gasp. Now, because of that, I don't believe Trump wants a deal, because a deal, they've been trying negotiations with Iran. They've been trying to reach a deal. And every time, Iran is insistent on one major thing. and that is that they must resolve the Strait of Hormuz issue first before discussing the nuclear facility issues and the enrichment of uranium. And what is their stipulation to resolving the Strait of Hormuz issue? Their stipulation they've remained firm on is that they will control the strait. They're so serious about controlling the strait, in fact, that they created the now Persian Gulf, the Persian Gulf Hormuz Port Authority Company. And I've gone over this before, for all of the cultists that eat up the goy slop, the Republican slop, about how Iran is on the verge of fracturing, and which will lead to civil war, and they'll take care of themselves, and Trump's a 5D chess player. It's not true. The IRGC has determined that they will control the Strait of Hormuz, and the Iranian parliament and foreign ministry have come together, and they've decided, sure, actually, yeah, the IRGC will control that. The Iranian parliament, who's supposed to be at odds with the IRGC, drafted the legislation in their parliament for the formation of the Persian Gulf Port Authority Company that will now be established on Larak Island and Keshem Island and will be used to charge a toll for the Strait of Hormuz. That's where we're at here. There is no divide like they want you to think that there is. And that's been what they've been stubborn on. And because they're insistent on this, as a form of punishment for the U.S. serving Israel's interest in the Middle East, by the way, and as a form of literally profiting what will be $100 billion extra dollars per year if they succeed in this, which is a third of their total country's GDP annually and 3 times larger than their current military and defense budgets, by the way. It's because of this notion that Trump can't agree to any deal. He can't allow Iran to dictate terms, first of all, their terms being, we discuss the Strait of Hormuz first, then nuclear. America never is the secondary player. We dictate terms or else, right? That's just how our foreign policy's always been. So he can't agree to it off of that alone, let alone the fact that even if he did, Iran would insist on controlling it and charging a toll, which he can't agree to. And that has to be done before we discuss nuclear. These are Iran's terms. He can't agree to it. So that's why I don't believe Trump wants the deal anymore. He's tried several times. Iran remains stubborn. So now he's giving the appearance now of one last ditch effort. I've paused the strikes that were set for tomorrow. They were set for tomorrow. There will be one big glow in Iran. One big glow. I'll leave that up to you to determine what that actually means, but I'll give you a hint. It's not good. It's very not good. Big glow in Iran tomorrow. It was going to happen, and then Qatar and Saudi Arabia and the Emiratis, they reached out to me and they said, "Sir, we're so close to peace. It's going to happen, sir. You're the greatest president to ever live. I mean, honestly, nobody's ever seen anything like this. And we're so close to peace, sir. Please just postpone it one more time, sir. Postpone it one more. Don't hit them Tuesday, sir. Give them one chance." So they have 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3 days. And that's the official reporting, by the way. 2 to 3 days is what Trump said. He said Iran has 2 to 3 days. Well, conveniently, what's 3 days from right now? That's going to be Friday evening. Just in time for the weekend. The very weekend that I said would be the weekend Trump strikes Iran again. And we resume the war. Now, this is a prediction of mine that hasn't come to 100% fruition yet, so we still can't say I'm right. And I hope I'm wrong. I want to come here live Sunday evening when it's looking like it's not going to happen. I want to go live Sunday evening, this Sunday, and I want to say I was wrong. We didn't strike Iran. Thank God. But it's looking more and more like I'm going to be right. And for that reason alone, again, you should like this show, like the stream right now, double tap your phone screen, hit the thumbs up button, and subscribe to American Advocates so that you can take notes while I'm live and repeat real facts and data and analysis to all of your even dumber friends, and then you'll look like the smartest one in your circle of friends and family. So subscribe right now. You should. I deserve it, literally. Now, all of that is to say, basically, Trump can't make a deal. That's why he's giving the appearance of wanting it, but he really doesn't, and the strikes are almost certainly coming, in my opinion. Worse now, though, than ever, by the way, we are also staring down the barrel of new intelligence reports that have been released. Now, I've released, hang on one second, actually. Someone said, wow, look at that fat president. I meant to take that off the screen because I'm no longer discussing. There we go. I'm no longer discussing Trump and Alligator Alcatraz and how he's been a failure with immigration. I'm discussing Iran. So it's Iran. Anyways, we're getting new intel reports coming in revealing even more about Iran's current predicament. Now, I already did a live report on the past intel reports that we received. I believe they came from the CIA, and they were released last week in the worst timing possible because it was a bad report that made America look bad, and it was leaked as Trump was literally landing in Beijing to meet with President Xi. So terrible timing. Nevertheless, I went over the report, and the report essentially stated that after 14,000 military targets were struck in Iran by the United States, after all of this money has been spent, all of this time has been spent at the time, the 11th week we were in. All of that, and all of the missile launch sites that Iran has bordering the Strait of Hormuz. Can we even see the Strait of Hormuz from here? Yeah, no, not really. All of the missile launch sites, there's 33 of them total that border the Strait of Hormuz from Iran's coastline. After all 14,000 strikes, all of the bombings, all of the money spent, all of the time spent, 30 out of 33 of them are still fully operational. And because either Iran rebuilt them and restored them, or in some cases, our strikes on some of them weren't even effective at all. That's the reporting that we got last week. Now we're getting even more reporting in today. And this reporting is now indicating, it's actually not indicating, it's confirming what I said was happening in the form of Russian intelligence. So it turns out Russian intelligence has been aiding Iran in their studies of U.S. Air Force flight patterns and U.S. Air Force strategy, which is what they're now using to begin making accurate predictions for where our aircraft is going to be and when, especially when they're conducting operations. This is now how we know that they shot down 2 of our F-15 fighter jets, our Black Hawk helicopters as well, and damaged an F-35 in the air from ground fire alone. Now, this won't be shocking if you've been tuning into this channel. I said from the start Russia was giving Iran intel reports, as is China, and both of them are very likely also selling weapons. Russia's giving them drones, no doubt. China has been selling Iran, actually, we're pretty convinced of this. They've been selling Iran anti-air missiles, shoulder-mounted ones. They're called man-pads, I believe. So I've been reporting on that for a while now. This report now makes it sound even worse, because not only do they retain their missile launch site capacity at 90% on the Strait of Hormuz, which, bear in mind, those missiles are not just for deterring or blocking off the strait, but definitely can be used against all of the Persian Gulf allies of ours, Qatar, Kuwait, whatever, Saudi Arabia, the Emiratis, Bahrain, etc. But in addition to that, they now are studying our flight patterns for our Air Force, and they're ready to shoot down more planes, it sounds like. And Trump is gearing up for another airstrike, it seems, this weekend. So what's going to hit here? Thanks for confirming that tanker. He says, yeah, man-pads. Yep, man-pads, shoulder-mounted anti-air. We're almost positive China's been shipping those to Iran. Now, Xi last week promised to Trump that he would stop doing that. But if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. I've got a bridge that goes right over the Strait of Hormuz, bypasses the closure, and allows oil to be transported, right? Anyways, the conclusion is, in all of this, is that the Gulf allies have some weight here, and they successfully have stalled what should be inevitable strikes in Iran tomorrow, according to reports. But there's also a chance that these strikes were never intended to occur, and that's the other reality here. And you have to recognize that this could just be more bluster, intentionally, publicly produced bluster from Trump, where it's basically, I was going to end the ceasefire, but Pakistan and Shehbaz Sharif, my best friend, I've known him for like 2 months, but he's like my best friend, and I owe him the world. And he said, sir, please don't end the ceasefire. So I agreed. I've been saying from the start that's just Trump literally backing down and using another country with the appearance of being the mediator as the reason, the excuse why. Well, this could be just part of the strategy. This might not even be a fully real report. Perhaps the strikes weren't ever planned for Tuesday, and instead Trump is making it sound like they were to keep the tensions high with Iran for negotiating purposes. And again, that's because the U.S. at the end of the day has no intentions on full good faith negotiations with Iran. They want a surrender, or at the very least, they want the majority of the capitulations to come from Iran's side. So the tensions of an imminent future strike being high, they believe, will help at least influence Iran towards making a deal soon. The unfortunate reality is it's not going to work. And now we know, of course, because under this current Trump term, our military, our government, the way everything is being handled is more along the lines of the Zionist approach, right? Which is basically use peace talks to find out where the enemy is and assassinate them, or promise ceasefires and then walk that back and go against the ceasefire that you initiated and open fire anyway, right? That's how Israel does things, and America has been sliding down that slippery slope of the Zionist approach to all of this. But despite all of that, the pause is likely the final last-ditch effort to make peace and keep the tensions high. Iran's not going to fall for it. Not only are they not going to fall for it, they don't care. And if anything, Iran has been waiting for this moment to occur. So the whole 2 to 3 day deadline, it lines up perfectly with Friday, the strikes this weekend. Iran's been bracing for this. They're waiting for it to happen. And in my opinion, they're probably as excited for it to happen as Trump told us weeks ago that the actual Persians in Iran were happy about every time we bombed Iran, which is, of course, not true. So that's what happens. My weekend prediction still holds, is the bottom line. And I don't think Trump actually even really wants peace at this point, because he recognizes that Iran wants to actually make a deal off the notion that Iran has enough leverage to actually negotiate and not surrender. That's what's happening. And this week, I think we can expect some big news at some point in time. We'll just have to wait and see. Otherwise, be sure to like the stream if you haven't already, and subscribe right now to American Advocates for more content like this, especially if you recognize how brilliant this past hour, close to hour and a half, has been while I've been live. If you recognize my brilliance and my sheer intellect, my analysis, my breakdown, how accurate I've been, if you've been here long enough to see how right I've been about predicting ceasefires before they've happened and escalation before it's happened, then you'll subscribe right now, because I am superior and you need to embrace me as your leader. I'll take a look at a few chats. Stop everything. Before I take a look at some chats, a now regular Super Chat tariff donator, Michael Cox, 6654, with another $2 Super Chat tariff. I believe you gave one yesterday, too. I really appreciate you paying your dues there, buddy, and helping to balance out the chat deficit of stupidity, which I'm unfortunately about to dive into for a few minutes here to see if there's anything worth it. MMM says, genius. Thank you. Thank you for recognizing it. Now tell the world, Double M. Share this with everybody and tell them. I think it's funny how utterly naive this all is. Well, that's the Trump administration for you, unfortunately. Trump is bad at managing government, and Trump was sold a big fat lie from Benjamin Netanyahu, who for some reason was invited into the Situation Room to be able to sell this war to him. And now here we are. We were told 3 to 4 days, then 3 weeks, then 4 to 6 weeks. We're in the 12th week. Hooray. So yes, naive is the right word for it, especially when you have Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of War. Hegseth is like the ultimate warmonger. Like, he just is gung-ho about this. That's why we even have the reports backstage, behind the scenes, of J.D. Vance now getting frustrated with Hegseth, because it's like J.D. Vance is basically saying Hegseth is the only one still telling Trump it's a good idea and that we can win. America has never won a war, so against a country that has been fighting wars for thousands of years, you don't have a chance, says Brian Fox. America has not won a war in modern history. America has won wars in the past, technically, or skirmishes, if you want to call them that. But that's a much more anti-America rhetoric there that I don't stand for. That's for sure. The real problem is most of the wars from the 20th and now 21st century just don't matter. In fact, I would argue every single war of the 20th century was stupid and shouldn't have happened. And now the 21st century essentially as well. Iran has hundreds of miles of tunnels, 70 feet underground, and huge, says Michael Cox. Thank you for that, Michael Cox. I'll actually look into that. I haven't heard about them being that that prominent. That's very interesting. It's probably true too. It would be smart, objectively speaking, if Iran had those. Not naive, it's discussing outcomes and fun. You just learned the word, I get it. Says William Gilbert. Okay. Is there anything worth reading here? Don't like what the guy is saying? Go listen to Larry Loomer. Ted Scheckler, you need to subscribe right now. I don't even need to read the rest of that to know. You belong here on this channel. Go listen to Larry Loomer, or as I call her, Jigsaw, or Ben the Eyebrows Shapiro, or Mark Tel Aviv Levin. Nice. Yeah, go listen to Mark Levin. That's what Trump would want you to do. If you like this Iran war, Mark Levin is now the new face MAGA. Haven't you heard? Haven't you heard, you stupid conservatives? I'm conservative. I've gotten the message loud and clear. I'm not MAGA. I'm not MAGA. I wanted the Epstein files released. I don't want foreign wars, believe it or not. I want an increased I want a better cost of living. So that I guess I'm not MAGA. Mark Levin is, though. Don't worry. The face of MAGA. Tanker 8787, another guy who I think should probably subscribe here too. You better subscribe, Tanker. He says the whole ceasefire did was give Iran ample time to open up more missile bunkers, clear out whichever ones had rubble, and so on, and they are loving it. Yeah, that's actually more of the report, actually. So more of that report. Let me get to that. Let me pull up that official report because, yeah, it's bad. Where did I see that? I saw that somewhere. Essentially, we bombed a lot of their inland missile sites and stuff. I believe factories and stuff. And I guess according to official reports, these are buried deep under granite mountains. And we decided not to use the bunker buster bombs on the factories and on the sites, and instead opted to blow up the gateways to them, the actual entrances. And so there was rubble blocking off the entrances, and that's what we considered good enough. Iran, they've cleared those. The satellite images suggest that those have been cleared, and now everything under the mountain that we elected to not take out using bunker busters is back in action and ready to go. So yeah, it's even worse. Thank you for that, Tanker. That's true. I remember reading that report earlier. Ben Shapiro is the last sane man, says 3-chord me. That is some beautiful rage bait, 3-chord me. You are an expert. Will do, brother, says Tanker. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate you, Tanker. Yeah, we want people in this chat like that. Pod 9538. I recognize you, Pod. Yeah, you're from Britain. He says, bro, I went to bed listening to you, and I wake up and you are still here. Fantastic. I just had to say that. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Hello over there. You're from Britain, if I remember correctly. The Restore Britain party was trending on X today, too. Good to see you back in my chat, and I appreciate that. I'm sure you were listening to my replay last night, and you're also, bear in mind, you're 5 hours ahead of us, right? So where you're at right now, it's like, it's morning time for you. It's obviously late here, but you probably were watching my replay, and then now I'm live right now, so I appreciate that, Pod. William Gilbert says, hey, WWE haircut. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Believe it or not, I actually did train for WWE at one point. The Waits experience says our military is using up all of its munitions in Iran and Ukraine, and this will not be good if a wider scale war happens. Very true, and that's a major concern, and no doubt one of the reasons why Trump went to Beijing, China, and pretty much walked away with nothing. Because China is just not convinced of us being able to really do much of anything anymore. It's also why the narrative, the rhetoric Trump used, centered around Taiwan, featured him referring to Taiwan as a place and not a country. Because we are sacrificing everything to protect Israel now. That includes the THAAD systems that we pulled out of the Indo-Pacific and moved to the Middle East to now protect Israel. So we're burning through Patriot interceptors and JASSM rockets, and we're expending a lot of munitions. We've already given up a lot over the past 4 years for Ukraine, along with a lot of money. It's all being depleted. And that's why all the 5D chess players out there that said Trump's playing 5D chess and really depleting China, it's completely wrong. China is loving that this is happening, and the longer this goes on, the better it is for China. They get to gauge our military strength. They get to watch us deplete our resources more, and they get to pin all of this on America and Israel as the global economy continues to suffer. David Cooper says, no, Trump says we have more munitions than when we started. Remember? I do remember that. And that's gaslighting. It's based off of a half-truth. We have low-grade munitions that are easily produced. And that's what we have more of. So he technically wasn't lying, actually, but it's gaslighting, for sure. It's gaslighting. And you know what? Again, objectively speaking, when it comes to war, I expect leaders to lie. And in some cases, it's like a half-good thing, because do we want Trump saying, well, our depletions are really low right now? Well, we don't want him to actually say that, in all fairness. But yeah, if you're like educated at all, then you understand what the lie is there. Many of these things, like the Patriot interceptor missiles, cost us anywhere between $2 to $4 million a piece, and we build them so slowly because, again, we don't have production capabilities here in America like we used to back when we were in our warmongering days, in the previous century. So we're producing, in some cases, it's like 50 to 60 of these a year, these interceptor missiles, and we've burned through over 1,000 of them. That's a huge deficit. Those in the military service know you use them because they're expiring. I see. Wow, that makes so much more sense now. User, you don't even have a proper username, you're just user. That makes so much more sense now. Guys, breaking news. We started an entire unwinnable war in Iran because some of our munition stockpiles were expiring. This is wonderful news. This explains everything. And you know what's even better? When we use the now expiring munitions, we're going to replace them with more expensive updated versions. That's going to be wonderful for America's deficit, for America's national debt. We're going to spend more money now replacing them with newer, upgraded versions that are also sold to us at an incredibly price-gouged rate. Beautiful idea. Wow, Trump is really a genius. That's exactly what we will do. I know it is, user. I know. Those of us who know. He promised no wars, but here we are again. It never stops. That's right, Brian Fox. And it will never stop until we remove Israeli influence out of our politics. We must purge our political system. We must send that into overhaul. We can no longer support any foreign influence in our politics. And Israel is at the helm of that. And that's why it never stops. They wore down Trump. They started wearing him down in his first term, by the way. He was the anti-establishment candidate, and by the end of his first term, what did we see? We saw Qasem Soleimani get taken out, and Trump doesn't get reelected, which means no Iran war in 2021, which is probably, I'm convinced, what would have happened now, based off of what's happening right now. So instead, they have to wait, and Biden, they realize, is not that receptive. And in October 7th, 2023, the October 7th attacks, when the Democrats failed to respond with Biden to that the way that Israel felt that we should, then they realized we got to go all in with the Republicans and all in on Trump, and that's what they did. That's what they do and did, and they used Miriam Mason, and she funds Trump. She gives him $240 million. This war was purchased. They wore down Trump. The Epstein files are probably playing a part. You know, if you've been watching this channel long enough, I actually do not believe Trump himself is criminally implicated in the Epstein files. I believe the bigger problem is everybody around him, all of his friends, many of his administrative officials and cabinet members, likely, and many more powerful people who have a lot of serious leverage over Trump are in those files, the half that we haven't gotten. And so that is being used as blackmail, in my opinion. And I think it's pretty much without a doubt, right? I think it's without a doubt that that's playing a part as well. There's always the carrot, and then there's always the stick. So that's big, and that's what's happening right now. And it's happening because they wore Trump down. You go back to 2015 and Trump standing in front of like the AIPAC lobby on stage saying, "You don't like me because I don't need your money and I'm not taking it." Like, that's what made Trump so popular, and now it's a complete 180 reversal. So, and that's why we have to fix our political system, because this will just keep happening. It'll keep happening, and the only way around it is to fix it and or get a strict. We need a strict, in my opinion. I say this as a biased conservative. If you're a liberal, get over what I'm about to say, because we probably agree on some things still anyway. But as a biased conservative, I will say we need a conservative ideologue, not populist like Trump, who's fickle and will chicken out. We need an ideologue with conviction to get in and say, no, Israel doesn't belong in meddling with our politics. What's going on right now with Thomas Massey, record-breaking amount of Israel Jewish donor money influence. I saw today the report is it's now topping the charts. Yesterday or 2 days ago I covered it. It was $9 million. Miriam Adelson again sticks her head into it because Thomas Massey says basically AIPAC should register as a foreign agent, which would prevent them from making donations to congressional candidates. Surprise, surprise, Miriam Adelson decides we need to spend $9 million to get this guy the fuck out of Kentucky's congressional district. District 4, I believe. $9 million. That was already a record, by the way. We've never seen that much money going into one congressional Republican primary race. Now it's at 13 million today. They're going as hard as they can. And then they wonder why everyone's becoming anti-Semite. This is why. It's playing out in front of our face right now in Kentucky with Thomas Massey. This has to stop. The founding fathers, if they were alive right now, would be watching what's going on with Thomas Massey, and they would be loading up their rifles. That's reality. They'd be loading up their rifles. They'd be taking pitchforks to the streets, and they'd be lighting torches on fire. And they'd be heading towards several different houses in severe protest. It's a disgrace what's happening to Thomas Massey right now. And it's a landmark election tomorrow as a result. Thomas Massey must win that primary. He's the last, he's one of the last America First candidates. And this is why he's getting this treatment. He's in the way of neoconservatism. It has to stop. Lifeguard says, so Elon is worth hundreds of billions, and you can buy an American politician for single-digit millions. They're so cheap. Well, they're not the wealthiest people, yeah. And the millions of dollars doesn't go directly in their pocket because that's technically illegal. You can only make up to a $5,000 maximum donation per election season. But they bypass it through the generous funding of media and ad campaigns, etc. This is how they bypass it. There's several loopholes. Because you'll always hear the argument, AIPAC can only give $5,000, you know. And they only contribute a couple $1 million per election season. Not taking into account what we're seeing right now. Miriam Adelson, she's not acting on AIPAC's behalf. She's just an Israeli nationalist. This is how they do this. So take notes now for future arguments about how, well, AIPAC's not that serious. And, you know, actually the Middle East meddles with from a foreign influence standpoint, much more. AIPAC's an American entity. That's the argument. It's not that much money. We're seeing it play out right now. This is how they do it. Kathy Morgan, 1656, says, when Trump pulled the U.S. out of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action nuclear agreement, many think that was the wishes of Netanyahu that far back. He knew what he wanted to do and was using the U.S. to do it. Yes. So if you remember correctly, Netanyahu was furious when Obama created the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, because Netanyahu has been pushing for a U.S.-Iran war for decades now. And Obama creates the Obama nuclear deal, which had holes in it, by the way, right? I mean, let's be real. It had holes in it. I'll explain why in a second. But Netanyahu was so furious that I believe that was one of the instances, if I'm remembering correctly, that he travels to America and gives a speech to Congress and gets a standing ovation from both sides, right? And so, yes, absolutely, they were furious over that, and they were pushing Trump in his first term to do that. But Trump ultimately did it, probably mostly at his request. But also, there were some issues with it because Iran was being disingenuous with their nuclear facilities. So they had set up several nuclear facilities for us to inspect, right, as per the deal. The inspections that had to be conducted to prove that they were abiding by the enriched uranium restrictions. But we know for a fact that Iran had created several different nuclear facilities that they were keeping hidden and weren't allowing inspectors in. So something had to change. Ripping up the deal, I think in hindsight, was a terrible idea, though. Because the second Trump ripped up that deal, that's when Iran speed runs their enriched uranium process up to 60% inside of what? I think like 1 year or something ridiculous. So it was still a terrible idea on Trump's part too, absolutely. And Netanyahu loved every second of it, absolutely. Lifeguard says, yeah, the wives of politicians get 20% of media buys. Yep, that's another one, absolutely. Dumb goys just can't leave that alone, that money alone. They can't. It's all greed. It's all greed. That's why it has to return to grassroots. The incentive for becoming a politician in this country shouldn't be money. I have no problem with the notion that congressmen make $175,000 a year. Like, they live in D.C. most of the time. It's expensive, and that's a good living. I believe if our congressmen are actually doing a decent job or even trying to, that $176,000 a year or $78,000 a year is not the it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm okay with that, actually. But the fact that they can enrich themselves to the level of millions upon millions of dollars before getting out of office, that's a disgrace. That shouldn't be allowed, and that creates the incentive for all of the worst kind of people to run for office. That's why it must be grassroots. If their salary is going to be six figures, so be it, but their campaigns must be directly funded from grassroots. $5,000 maximum donation, no foreign influence, apex of foreign lobby. This is what Thomas Massey's calling for, and that's why now $13 million is working against him. As Ed Galrain, Ed Galrain, who's calling for conscription in America again and a draft to be reinstated, is now at 54% odds of winning the 4th District of Kentucky over Thomas Massey. That's a disgrace. Thomas Massey was up here over Ed Galrain. Then Miriam Adelson comes along and it goes like this. And now Ed Galrain is up. Inexcusable. Inexcusable. This should be outrageous enough to where Americans revolt over this. And really the reality is we're too well behaved. I keep saying we need a Davy Crockett until we get a Davy. Well, yeah, and that's the other thing, by the way. Like, people wanna like talk about how bad Hitler was, but let's be honest. If this keeps happening, the right-wing response, I say this as a conservative, and I just recognize that America is currently in a parallel situation with what you would refer to as the 1920s German Weimar period. If this keeps going down this route, the left will have their own, in my opinion, very toxic, very hyper-progressive response that is full of everything that I don't want, certainly. I don't want what comes with leftist progressivism. I don't mind so much moderate Democrats. I think moderate Democrats align more now than ever as a result of liberal progressivism becoming so extreme. Many moderate Democrats feel like they're a man without an island to stand on anymore. Progressivism will get in because of Trump blundering here, and progressivism only the progressives will enjoy. The independents will wind up hating the progressive Democrats as much as they currently hate the neoconservative right now, as Trump's betrayed them. So the independents will once again come to that realization, and so will the Republicans. They'll despise all of this if that's what 2028 to 2032 winds up looking like, because Trump is ruining the Republican Party. And so if that happens, what's the response? Well, it's another major pushback, only it has to go even more extreme to match what was the progressive liberal extreme that we're likely to get in 2028. And if that happens, who do we get? It's Hitler. And many conservatives will tell you, either privately, half-jokingly, or otherwise, that we need Hitler, because he'll get things done, and he's a far-right conservative. He'll fix immigration. He'll definitely fix the Israeli foreign influence problem. But do we want that? Really? The answer, of course, is no. We don't want that. Not at what we saw Hitler doing in the 1930s and 40s. We don't want that. That's too far to the extreme. We don't want the liberal progressivism. It's ridiculous. But we also don't want where the right winds up going as a result of that far right liberal progressive extremism either. And that's what's at play here and at risk. And it's happening right now, not even so much because Americans are as divided as we think we are. It's because the Israeli foreign influence and Zionist agenda want us to believe it's getting that bad. And that they allow it to get to this point, this boiling point, by ensuring that their money dictates to us what our foreign policy, what our foreign policy is, and how our political system works. We're supposed to be the ones actually in control, using representatives that we elect to determine everything for us. That's how it's supposed to go. And when we don't get that, everyone gets more agitated. And society fractures. And we turn on each other for quite a while. That's like what's happening right now. That's why this is so important to deal with. You realize Massey is considered far right, right? Yeah, well, he's not. Massey is definitely not far right. Did you check out that IMEC Board of Peace narrative for the reason for this war I mentioned? Any thoughts? The Board of Peace. Yeah, that's... Wait, were you the one also telling me I should watch Jillian Michaels? Was that also you? Because I tried to find that video and I couldn't find that one. So, IMEC Board of Peace. Let me write that down. Actually, let me just Google that. I'll pull it up on a Google tab for later. You were the one trying to tell me to watch Jillian Michaels. I couldn't find the specific video you wanted, but I did try. I searched it. IMEC Board of Peace. Reason for Iran war. I'll have that pulled up. I'll take a look at that later. Your middle and outward mindset is wrong, says user. I'm not advocating for any sort of centrist ideology here. I'm a social and fiscal conservative. I don't think Thomas Massey is conservative enough. But I am pointing out the actual reality. And the core fundamental problem with our country right now politically is foreign influence. And because of the foreign influence, it ruins our politics for both sides, and it makes both sides inherently more extreme. Because when we elect people, when Democrats get their way and someone's in, and then all of a sudden we get everything, quality of life gets worse here, and the Democrats start doing things that many moderate Democrats consider too extreme, it makes those moderate Democrats feel like they have to go more extreme. And conversely, when we have Republicans vote in somebody like Trump, who ran on being anti-establishment and over the course of the last decade has been eroded away into now becoming the swamp he swore to destroy, and is now the neoconservative we thought we'd never get out of him, it pushes Republicans to become more extreme. That's what's happening. If you can't see that already, if you literally can't see that right now, there's probably no helping you. He responds, I agree, we are going to see a toxic progressive backlash. Yes, exactly. But that's going to come in the form of an annoying comedy and people not saying retard. Yeah, exactly. So with the left, it'll be censorship. Like in 2028, if it's a liberal progressive president, this channel's gone, right? I'm fully aware of that. They'll destroy this channel. They will not let me continue to produce content. I already experienced censorship during the Biden administration. They were forcefully removing a lot of my content on Instagram, and I wasn't even all that political then. I always had political ideas and beliefs, but I seldom shared them. But under Biden, I was sharing stuff, and Instagram shadow banned my account, restricted my views, and removed my content for me. So I experienced that then. It'll happen again. This channel will go away. They'll permanently delete it. I'll be done. I'll be off the internet, and that's true. And that will incite me to become more extreme as well, out of spite. I'm a spiteful person. I'm so spiteful and full of hate that I can't wait to watch the Republicans lose the midterms. Fuck them. They don't deserve to win. But conversely, when the Democrats get power, if they do everything on repeat that I've lived through as a conservative and they target me again, then I'm going to be just as spiteful, if not more, in the opposite way. And I'll be the example of what I'm telling you is the reality of foreign influence and extremism. Because I'm spiteful and full of hate. I have a black heart. Do we understand here? I'd cry, says DD Payne. Well, this channel will exist on Rumble, obviously. I'll just move it, but, LOL, at least you're honest. Hey, David Cooper, I'm always going to be honest. It's all we've got left. The truth is written on all men's hearts, and we must speak it. Because then by doing so, we plant the seeds that wind up growing, and then people become more awake to reality. It's because people are too afraid to speak the truth that we're in the circumstances we're in. I would love for Democrats to win in Congress so all the criminals can go to prison, says Rick. Fucking men. And it pains me to say that as a Republican. But yes, why are half the Epstein files not released yet? That won't be a problem if the midterms go blue. The Democrats will push for it. I won't get the deep state arrest I want to see, obviously. But fuck Trump. If him and his do-nothing bitch Attorney General Pam Bondi, who he finally replaced, can't get the job done, and Todd Blanche isn't going to do it as a lifelong New York Democrat who switched parties a year and a half ago, if that's not going to happen, then you know what? Fuck them. Fuck all of them. They deserve the persecution they have coming their way at the hands of the Democrats, with the lawfare being the weapon of choice again. Fuck them. They had their chance. We saved them. We bailed Trump out. We pushed him to this position. He turns his back on him. Fuck him. I hope he gets impeached. And by impeached, I mean out of office. And from there, I hope after he's impeached out of office, bearing in mind that if that happens, he doesn't have time to pardon himself and all of his corrupt administration, I hope we watch the Democrats arrest and imprison everyone in this administration who's betrayed us. Spare RFK Jr., spare Tulsi Gabbard, but get rid of the filth. Exactly, Lifeguard. Yeah, they will. If it goes blue, yeah, they'll protect their own, absolutely. And I wanted to see the deep state arrest for the left. I did, you know. And if you're a liberal, hopefully you can acknowledge that. The left is full of filth as well that should have gotten persecuted and arrested all the same, but it wasn't going to happen under Bondi or under Trump. All phony shit. So fuck them. I'm done with them. I'll be waiting for a real conservative to rise up in 2028, and if I don't see that, I'm not voting. Sean 8204.5, okay, says, this has been the greatest year a president has ever served. Really? Tell me more. God bless you, bro, says Rick. God bless you. May God bless you as well, Rick. Thank you. Totally is. Dems will protect their own for sure. Yep, they will. And Trump's already admitted he would do the same. If he finishes his term, he plans on preemptively pardoning the entirety of his administration. And, you know, it's like, okay, I get it. Biden preemptively pardoned his, so fair. But, like, now that's Biden actually opened that window, unfortunately, and he shouldn't have. Now Trump's going to continue it on, and that's what we're going to continue to see. Now we're going to see the new president get in, Democrat or Republican, be corrupt as shit, continue draining our economy of resources, and continue allowing the massive wealth divide. And then at the end of all of it, massive viruses, all this fake nonsense, all of this bullshit, foreign funding under Democrats, foreign wars under Republicans, no attention to the national debts, mass printing of our money, inflation skyrocketing, all of this nasty corruption from both sides, and no matter what, just preemptively pardon yourself and everybody involved. Wonderful. Isn't that going to be wonderful? Sean Wallace says he is the worst president in my lifetime. I got news for you. Let's see. Biden, was it Obama in his second term that got Obamacare passed? Bush. Clinton with his subprime loans. H.W. Bush with H-1B visas and the 1990 Immigration Act. Reagan with his amnesty for California. Yeah, I got news for you. I would honestly tell you that the last eight or so presidents have been the worst presidents of your lifetime collectively. They've all done bullshit that has ruined America. Every single one of them. To Clinton's credit, the budget was almost balanced. The national deficit, the national debt was actually almost balanced. Unfortunately, Clinton decided subprime loans were a great idea, and that led to the 2008 housing market crash. H.W. Bush with his nonsense, replacing Americans with foreign workers. Reagan with his amnesty. and it's trickle economics, which is, in my opinion, overhyped. Reagan continued the trend of selling our birthright overseas. H.W. Bush made it worse. Clinton didn't stop it. The Democrats in the 90s spoke out against it, but didn't stop it. Clinton with his subprime loans, Bush with his 9/11, Bush with his Iraq 2003 war. Like, it just keeps getting worse. Obama with his Obamacare, which hasn't worked. Trump in his first term didn't get anything really done. Biden with his actually Trump with his first term not only didn't get anything done, but Trump actually is actually just as much to blame, in my opinion, as Biden is for the horrendous economy during COVID. Because Biden did a bunch of nonsense bullshit that made it worse and didn't fix it, but Trump actually came up with the idea of the lockdowns that closed down the businesses and begun the process of hurting the economy. So they both share in the blame for that. The 9.1% inflation under Biden, I absolutely call Biden inflation because it was the second year of Biden's term, and he deserves to eat that. But if we're being honest with ourselves, Trump set up the precedent for that to happen. So yeah, all of these presidents have been shit, and we've had shit presidents since Lyndon Johnson. The last real president of this country was John F. Kennedy, and that's why he was shot and killed. Let's just be real. This is where we're at. JH22533 says, it's kind of refreshing to hear at least a few conservatives keep some morals and separate from the pedo protectors. Yeah, hopefully we can find common ground for all and progress society forward. Yeah, I won't upset you by speaking about my social conservative values because politics divide, and like I speak about that enough on my regular shows all the time anyway. So if you keep tuning in, you're going to wind up despising me. I'll just be real with you. And I don't think we can find common ground for that reason. But the one topic more and more people are waking up to and finding common ground on is just, again, foreign influence. We must fix our political system. Then we can hash out our social issues. But we can't do that when all of our politicians are bought and paid for by foreign influence and nonsense. Big pharma, big agro, APAC in Israel, all of that has to end. Then when we've purified the system a little bit more, return it to grassroots if possible. And I know this sounds like a fantasy, but believe it or not, I actually have hope for that to actually take place. And I believe in not giving up hope and actually pushing forward and striving for that goal to be achieved. And I believe we can do it. More people are noticing. The noticers, people are noticing. And once that's solved, then from there, we duke it back out and then go to war with each other, politically speaking. And we discuss abortions and LGBTQ and gay rights. And we discuss, socialism. And we discuss social programs. And we get back to the nitty gritty of everything. But for now, I think more people are escalating up the ladder, and they're recognizing that there's this glass ceiling where it's like, yeah, you keep fighting about that down there. Yeah, that's wonderful. Meanwhile, our economy is just going to shit, and everything's getting worse, So we got to smash through that glass ceiling together, fix that, and then we can fight, They are coming after our older cars big time. I saw that, Lifeguard. Yeah, they want the kill switch installed. It's like a mandatory thing. Kill switches installed in cars going forward. They don't like that. You are right about Reagan's amnesty, but nothing went overseas until NAFTA. Yeah, I'm aware it was mostly H.W. Bush and then Clinton doing nothing to stop it, and then Bush Jr., of course. I'm aware. But there was a whole plan. There was a whole plan in place that really started with Jimmy Carter, if you look back onto it, and that was in the late 70s. So you may not want to hold Reagan as responsible, and that's probably fair. And you certainly can't really hold Carter all that responsible either. But really, the beginnings of it, in my opinion, from what I've read about, it really started with Carter. It carried over into Reagan, and then it got infinitely worse in the 90s. I mean, it was the 90s where we started to see the Made in USA disappear and the Made in Taiwan and Made in China really began to take over. So that's a fair notion for you to say. And you're right. You're mostly right on that, I would say, if not completely, but either way. Bold as a lion. Hey, good to see you here, Bold. He says, Trump says he's still proud of Operation Warp Speed, too. Yep. Operation Warp Speed. He does. He celebrates that as an accomplishment. Kathy Morgan says, I voted today in Texas primary and I had to leave 3 candidate votes vacant because they were so bad. Good. Believe it or not, you don't owe your politicians your votes. That's taken for granted nowadays. If they're not willing to promise what benefits you, don't vote for them. That's got to be our new motto. A lot of these candidates, they just believe that inherently we'll vote for them. We're their demographic, right? That's what they assume. The Republicans are guilty of that when it comes to white people. If you're a white man, they just are like, oh, that's in the bag. You'll vote for me because I'm not a Democrat. Actually, no, not anymore. John Mueller says, well, I kind of agree with that. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just want power windows, says user. You still using those you still cranking down those windows? I'll tell you what, if you ever drive your car off a bridge by accident into water, the power windows will kill you. It's the crank down windows you actually want. USAID should reopen. I disagree. Yeah, wait, you're a rage baiter. The R in R7 stands for rage bait. Very funny. He says we need gay programs abroad too. Yeah. Very funny. Bold Design says, I have a 1997 GMC Sierra base model work truck. They won't touch my truck. Good for you, man. Keep that thing going as long as possible. Keep that going as long as possible. It's going to get to a point where we're not buying cars. We're not buying 2026 cars anymore. Fuck them. We're going to be driving 89 Hondas, 97 GMC Sierras, 2001 Toyota pickups. Hey, we're going to hold that line. Fuck them. Have you guys seen how cheap eggs have become? Yes. Well, the reason why that happened, I explained that early on. The reason why that happened is because 4 days before Trump gets in, Biden called 110 million chickens. So the egg prices shot up. Trump he didn't have to even do any. Trump was actually right about that, by the way. Trump was like, I just got it. What are you saying? The eggs are outrageous. I've been in office for like 2 days. He was actually right. Biden called 110 million chickens over what they were calling the bird flu or something like that. And Biden was told that culling 110 million chickens was not going to stop the spread of it. He did it anyway out of spite. I guarantee you Biden signed that order to do that with a smile on his face 4 days before Trump gets in because he knew it was gonna inflate the price of eggs. It was a big fuck you to Trump is what it was. So Trump was right when he said that. They just got in. I don't know eggs. I don't know anything about it. They just went up. I'm hearing of it. I just sat down. It's literally the truth, actually. It was actually kind of funny, in my opinion. Especially looking back. I was pissed at the time, but looking back on it, it was actually kind of funny. So, but yeah, of course, the egg prices were going to go down because 110 million chickens were gone, and once more of them hatched and started producing eggs, supply and demand. So, yeah. But yes, eggs are now cheap again. Yeah, wow, big round of applause for Trump. It's the one thing he can still celebrate after going back on his word on everything else. The Heritage Foundation. Interesting. Independence Resurrected says the Lewis Powell memos by a lawyer fresh out of law school got Nixon's attention. He made Powell a Supreme Court justice. In that memo is where the Heritage Foundation started in 1971. Interesting. User says, are you a Republican or a Democrat? I am a social and fiscal conservative. I'm just not a MAGA cultist. So when Trump is fucking up, I say it. And he's been fucking up all year long, pretty much. What does that mean, says user? It means that I am a conservative who views what Trump is doing as a moderate Democrat's actions at best. Trump is so unsatisfactory to me that I come on here and I literally say he forfeited his mandate, he's not following through on any of his promises, and worst of all is the Iran war, which we were promised wouldn't happen. That's what it means. Yay, not a cultist is you would think that's the bare minimum, JH, but it's not true, unfortunately. Unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of conservatives that I talk to are really lost in the sauce. They're like, you need to be, I literally get told, you need to be loyal to Trump. No, bitch. I'm loyal to my country and to my family and my friends and what's best for them and for my country. Not to a man. He's not a monarch. This is not a monarchy. I'm not loyal to a man. I'm loyal to the country. It's honestly ridiculous to hear people say you should be loyal to Trump, and worse to say we owe him our loyalty. That's what really pisses me off. We put him there. He owes us his loyalty. That's how it works. It's so mind-blowing to me. It's so crazy. You as a democracy voted this man in. You get what you deserve. Yeah, well, same could be said about what we lived through with Biden. So, I don't know where you're trying to go with that, in all honesty. Like, we've continued to vote in establishment candidates, and we've continued to get what we deserve. Facts. Loyalty to a man is gay, says Sean8204.5. I agree, and I think that's the best note to sign off right here. So that's what I'm going to do. I've been live long enough. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe right now if you enjoyed the content and the analysis that I gave. Also, be sure to like the stream, use those thumbs, double tap your phone screen, or hit the thumbs up button. It's free to do. It helps the show perform better in YouTube's algorithm. Quick shout out to Mike. Is it Mark Cox or Mike Cox? Is it Michael Cox? Thank you for the $2 super chat dono. He says, remember Trump was a Democrat and New York City liberal? True. And thank you for the $2 dono. Thank you, Beckfan, for the $10 donation super chat tariff. Appreciate you. Thank you to my mods for the beautiful work. Appreciate the work in chat, keeping the chat somewhat organized. And I appreciate all of you, all the viewers. I'll be back here live tomorrow, as I'm live every single night, Monday through Sunday, really, at this point. I go live daily now. At around the same time, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. That's what I aim for anyway. But I do a lot of research and reading before I go live, so sometimes I'm a little later than that, which is why when you subscribe, you should turn on post notifications so you're notified when I go live. Other than that, though, glory to America. Still the best country in the world. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I love this country. We can fix this country. Don't take the doomer pill. Don't take the black pill. It'll start with removing all of the foreign influence, and from there, we can purify our politics. We just need good people to rise up and run, and it starts at the local level. Consider running town council, town supervisor, mayor, deputy mayor, all of that, school board. This is where you change things and build a resume, and we work our way up. This is what I advocate for as an American advocate. Follow your convictions and get into politics. And if that's not your calling, find people who share in your ideals and support them with money or sweat equity. Get signatures for them, but find them. Create the communities. This is what they don't want us doing, but it's what needs to happen. And we can do this. So glory to America. God bless the USA, and may God bless all of you. Have a great rest of your evening. Tune in back tomorrow. I'll be live again. Take care. Bye-bye.